This is your ultimate catfishing guide to land monster catches with tons of amazing catfishing tips to up your game. First up is the most amazing catfish bait ever. You bet, folks. Delicious, scrumptious, irresistible chicken liver, and here's all the reasons why. So why is chicken liver such a popular catfish bait? It's because catfish are opportunistic feeders with an incredible sense of smell, and chicken liver has a very strong, pungent, distinct odor that cats can pick up from a far distance away, even in murky or dark water. The scent trails through the water and attracts catfish right to your hook like a magnet. The texture of chicken liver is obviously soft and smelly and bloody, which mimics the natural food sources that the catfish eats and encounters every day, which is what makes it so irresistible to them. And all you need to get started is go to your local grocery store and get a can of fresh chicken livers, which you can find in the meat section of most grocery stores. Then get yourself a very strong and long 8 to 9 foot heavy fiberglass catfish rod with a good high capacity spinning reel that takes a lot of line capacity. And all you need then is a 5/0 to 7/0 circle octopus hook, and we're ready. And you saw earlier, we keep our chicken liver frozen in the freezer all year so that the missus doesn't complain about it smelling up the refrigerator if you've got milk and cheese and eggs and grapes, etc. in there. Now, here is a really great hack if it's legal to do this in your area, because chicken liver is a bit tricky to keep together on the hook. That is, to stick it in a pair of pantyhose. That way the hook goes through it real well, and you can cast it out really far, and it stays together no problem. Okay, let's rig up now. You want to be using a slip sinker rig, or a Carolina rig it's called, or a Santee Cooper rig if you're using a peg float to keep the bait just off the bottom. So we just attach a 1/2 ounce to 1 ounce slip sinker or heavier to your main line, which is always going to be at least 30-pound braided line, followed by a bead that's going to protect your knot, and then you just tie on a swivel. After the swivel, you attach your 12 to 16-inch leader line, and then you just tie on your circle hook with the liver in the pantyhose tied up like a nice piñata. So once you've got it all hooked up, now you want to cast your line out into the deepest holes or pools in the lake, and you especially want to get near any underwater structure like rocks, submerged logs, and fallen trees, where catfish are always going to be hiding to stay cooler and to be in ambush mode for prey. Let the bait sink to the bottom, reel in a little bit of slack, and keep a close eye on the rod tip. Okay, once you feel a steady pull or you see the bobber go under, all you have to do is just softly set the hook and let the catfish take the bait and start moving off with it. The circle hook does its job by setting itself in the corner of the fish's mouth. Once you just give it a little bit of a tug, then all you have to do is reel in smoothly and steadily, keeping steady tension on the line, never letting any slack. Okay, now let's talk about all the baits we're going to use to catch each species of catfish: channels, bullheads, flatheads, and blues during the summertime. Okay, in the middle of hot summer, catfish are going to move into shallower water during night, just after dusk, and that's when they tend to feed more heavily. But during the day, when the sun is high and hot, they hide out in deeper, cooler spots every time around cover and structure, like we mentioned. Let's start off with flathead catfish. They are a very solitary fish. They usually hunt alone. They're never in packs like wolves. But their absolute favorite bait is live bluegill or live shad, if it's legal in your area to use that. They are a little bit more challenging to catch than the channel or the bullhead, but it's absolutely worth it because they get really big and they put up a heck of a fight. But definitely to catch flatheads, you got to get your baits into areas with a lot of cover, like we've talked about, fallen trees, deep holes and drop-offs, rock structures, hollowed out logs, that sort of thing. And flatheads are mostly nocturnal feeders, which means they're going to feed primarily most actively at nighttime. They can get really large, like we talked about. So again, you got to make sure you're using a very heavy, long rod with very heavy braided line, maybe even a 7/0 to 8/0 octopus hook. And the only catfish bigger than the flathead is the big boy. That is the blue catfish. They are, of course, the largest fish of the catfish species, and they are going to live in very, very large and deep lakes and reservoirs. They are also very opportunistic when it comes to feeding, so you want to be using huge chunks of cut bait like shad or herring or bluegill in the 7 to 8 inch range. You're going to find blue catfish in deeper channels and very steep drop-offs, or even in river bends if you're fishing rivers where the current is a lot stronger. And here again, like flatheads, you're going to need a very heavy, big, strong fiberglass rod. We'd use at least 50-pound braided line, and make sure you got 150 to 200 yards spooled, because they are going to put up a fight and they're going to run on you at some point in time during the fight. Okay, we've already talked about channel catfish, of course, with the preferred bait being chicken liver, but of course, anything they can fit in the mouth, the channel will eat. Live worms, live minnows, crustaceans, cut bait, stink bait, and the like. And lastly, for the bullhead catfish, which is the smallest of all these cats, they're usually found in smaller lakes and ponds, slower moving streams. They're not as picky. They'll eat the same types of things as the channel. So live night crawlers, cheese-filled hot dogs, dough balls, prepared baits like that usually work really well, but just get them right on the bottom. A lot of people have asked us to actually comment on some of the similarities and differences between freshwater and saltwater catfish, and while they both share a lot of traits, they do have some distinct differences and different characteristics, so let's kind of cover those right now. Okay, let's start with the similarities between freshwater and saltwater cats. First, in terms of physical appearance, both of them have a very similar body shape and type, which is characterized by a flatter head and an elongated body and barbels around their mouths. Of course, these barbels are whiskers, and they're used to sense movement and environment around them, and of course, locate food. Their whiskers are covered with thousands of taste buds along with the rest of their body in lieu of having scales. Now, in terms of feeding habits, both types of catfish are bottom feeders, which means they're going to primarily feed on or just near the river or lake bottom in their habitat. They do have a very diverse diet, which includes fish, like we've talked about, crustaceans, insects, and even different types of plant material. Now, both catfish species neither have scales. Instead, they have a smooth and slimy skin that protects them from parasites and diseases. That's why we want to handle them with care and get them back in the water safely if we are going to catch and release, because that's going to help protect them from disease. All right, now for the differences between the two. The most obvious difference is, of course, their habitat. Freshwater cats are going to live in rivers, lakes, ponds, and streams, while saltwater cats, of course, inhabit the coastal waters, estuaries, and mangroves. In terms of species, there's a greater variety of freshwater cats, like we've talked about already, from channels, bullheads, blues, and flatheads, whereas the common saltwater species are the hardhead and the sea catfish. In terms of barbels or whiskers, both catfish obviously have them, but the length of the saltwater catfish barbels is usually longer because they need them to help them locate food in the darker or murky coastal waters. And in terms of the skin and slime, saltwater cats usually have more slime than freshwater catfish, and that's because this extra layer is going to help them deal with a saltier environment and gives them additional protection against parasites. And the coolest part for last, some saltwater catfish actually have venomous spines in their dorsal and pectoral fins, which can cause some pretty painful injuries to humans. Now, freshwater catfish also do have spines that can cut you, but they're not venomous. So we hope that this little piece helps you understand the similarities and differences better so that it does enhance your appreciation and knowledge of these incredible whiskered friends. We really appreciate you watching our videos, and we wish you happy fishing. We'll see you out on the water real soon. So folks, the next time you're heading out to go catfishing for the afternoon, go grab a big container of chicken liver, and you'll be well on your way to having a very successful and productive day catfishing. That much I promise you. Okay, folks, thanks for watching. Please like this video, hit the subscribe button before you leave, and don't forget to enable your bell notifications so you never miss another great video coming your way.